With the inaugural 12-team playoff all set up and ready to roll, all 12 teams hope and vie for the coveted national championship. We're hoping and searching for a possible easy route to the championship. Some have more difficult ones, and yet some have ones of much more simplistic in nature. But there is one particular team that faces at least two possible major roadblocks before they even enter the semis. Want to find out which team it is? Stay tuned to find out on Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Welcome back, Gabbers. Thank you all so much for joining us on another exciting edition, I might add, of Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Of course, you're gabbing with Mr. CeeLo. And, well, we are here right now because the college football playoff is officially underway. But guys, we've got over a week left before the fireworks kick off, and Mr. CeeLo wanted to do a special. And it starts with a team that Mr. CeeLo's boys have to start off with, and they kick off Friday night week. And that team would be the Indiana Hoosiers. And given the fact that there is a team out there that so many teams like Paul Weinbaum want to sit there and criticize and say they don't belong there unless they've got the SEC tapped to it. I wanted to go through and do something special with all 12 teams. But before we do that, I hope you guys are doing great. It's about to get really cold here yet again. Had a messy 2 days, and we are back to reality that it is winter time in the South. Less than almost a week before we start getting our time back. Yes. Hope you guys are doing great, but I got to do some housekeeping. And of course, y'all know I got to holler at my boy Brad. Guys, if y'all want to be a part of the show, don't be shy. Brad's straight killing up my comments, which I have no problem. What's up with you, buddy? Yep, I'm loving it too. Brad said he watched the SMU Clemson game. It was great. And hey, I'd love to see him go to 16 teams too. I think that's ultimately what we're going to come down to, because the reality of it is, I don't care what any of these pretenders say. Oh, it's too much. And if you got a comment about it, please put it in the comments. Let me know why you think 16 is too many. I don't. I think ultimately 16 teams gets those other conferences in there. You can say it's simple as you want, but right now everybody thought it was too much. And Oregon, considering they're the number one seed, I think they need to do it like the National Football League does it. You swap the brackets. Whichever is the lowest seed, that's who Oregon ends up playing. I think that's what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a situation where it's set in stone. They need to set it up. Whichever team is the lowest seeded, they swap the brackets around. It's not that difficult. I mean, just do it that way. Yes, I did pick y'all in that game. I surely did. Pony up, even though SMU lost. And yes, for any of you that don't know, I totally agree with SMU being picked. And I am going to do a show about Paul Weinbaum and all those others that would sit here and very well say, because I got to give a gab out to Dan Orlovsky for standing up for the truth. And Shannon Sharp, really?
Dumb shit! Dumb shit! Dumb shit! You fucking idiot.
And it's just like Stephen A. said, you win the games, then you go. But I'm going to do a show on that. Y'all only don't get antsy. I've got a week before I have to put all that good stuff up there, but I'm going to talk about it. Make sure, Brad, you put something down in the comments about this whole Alabama being left out. And if you got a different opinion than me, please feel free, buddy. You know I got nothing but love for you, my brother. Yep, same reason I'm smiling. Yep, there you go. It's the ankle on you. Yeah, that's right. Yep, you are the SEC champs. You better hope I don't win. Yep, Penn State surprised me as well, brother. I'm not even gonna lie. Yep, Ashton Jonty all the way, absolutely. Oh, if any of you guys don't agree with, if you don't agree with Ashton Jonty for Heisman, please say it down in the comments. Let's have a discussion, please. Beck does need. I have read somewhere that Beck was confirmed to need Tommy John surgery, but like I said, this is where, brother, Kirby likes to hold information, and I don't like that. This is where he needs to get fined. You basically come out with it, okay? Seriously. Oh, we gonna find out, and like I said, it's awesome Notre Dame. Make sure you get that right, awesome Notre Dame, because we gonna get past the Hoosiers. That's what the whole premise of this show here is. I better not sleep on Pony Express. No, not sleeping on them. I'm gonna tell you, Weinbaum and Shannon Sharp are sleeping on them, and a bunch of other from Chris Sims. All of these, I'm listening to a lot of these guys downplaying the Pony Express, because let's look at it prospectively. A lot of you are gonna look at that Clemson game and say, "Oh, they got beat by Clemson." Clemson was reeling. They were scared. By the time, I will say this. When Clemson, you take those 2 turnovers off the board, now I get it, turnovers part of the game. But for them to turn that ball over twice, it's still, yeah. I'm telling you right now, you don't want none of that smoke. You do not want none of that smoke. I'm telling you right now. Everybody that sits there and think they want that smoke.
Hey, shut up, shithead.
Don't let what Penn State did against Oregon fool you. I'm going to tell you something right now. You really want to look at something? Let's do this. You want to look at something? Let's do this. I know, Brad, you're going to say something about the shirt. I didn't have a red one at the moment. It was in the washer. So I don't want to hear what you got to say. I didn't have a red one. Anyway, let's go on with the comments here.
Damn you.
But honestly, the Penn State Oregon game, to me, it was like one of the analysis said, they were just waiting for Oregon to shut the door on them. They knew this was a matter of we lose. They were high enough in the rankings, they could have got blown out by Oregon. Now, they couldn't got beat 60-0, but I don't think they were going to get beat that bad. But I will say this, that they had made a valiant effort to get back in this game. Now, with that being said, do I believe in my hardest of hearts that SMU can play with them? Stay tuned to find out on one of my other shows. But let's go ahead and we start looking at. Oh, I'm sorry, Bray. I gotta get the rest of these comments. You got my brother. I'm sorry. LMAO Bama. There you go. You answered my question. My Peach County Trojans got knocked out of the playoffs by Calhoun again. Look, bro, I know all about Calhoun. Yeah, we ended up getting beaten by Toombs County, but my nephew's about ready. He'll be a sophomore next year, and he'll be ready to do his thing at DHS. But Peach County has always been a good football program. Of course, many of you guys don't know, that's a top quality program here in the state of Georgia, along with Dublin High School. Yeah, and that is going to... Yeah, he put LMAO twice for Bama. I feel the same way, brother.
Who cares?
No SEC love here, huh? I got you, brother. But let us move into the reason for this show. I've got a surprise, and it's going to be some work, but I want to do a show where what has to happen for each one of the 12 teams to win the national championship. And I'm starting with Indiana, because they and Notre Dame will go first on a Friday night masterpiece, if you will, or Friday night clash. Most of the Georgia high school championship games, you guys, will be played next Monday and Tuesday. So this game will not intervene. Now, I don't know what the rest of the country's doing, but whatever's going on the rest of the week, best of luck to all of them. But let's get into Indiana. First, let's do a little background on Indiana. Many of you look at this team and disdain. And that's not fair because Curtis Rourke came over from James Madison along with his coach. And the reality of this is we have to look at this team and say this team came over. Oh, I'm sorry. He came over from Ohio. Excuse me. His coach came from James Madison. Excuse me. Rourke is no stranger to throwing for right at 3,000 yards. This was a guy that in 2022, he threw for 25 touchdowns and 4 scores in his, I guess you could say, his official full year of starting, if you will. This coming from after he had a jump up to 18, 17 and 11 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. And then he had that massive jump. And then you have last season where he was just 2207 on 307 attempts at 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And then you look at the massive increase. And the numbers that stick out to me, you guys, are the sacks. That 17 times he was sacked. That's a lot for a guy who's rapidly approaching 3,000 yards, and he's only dropped back officially 300 times. That's a lot. Now, a lot of people are going to look there and they're going to say, oh, no, that's not really much. That's not really that much. Well, when your lack of competition is that, and then you look at the one game, guys, and this is the one that everybody knows is coming. If you're an Indiana fan, you know this game is coming. The 38-15 game where you watch this Ohio State team, which in my opinion, and I was listening to a couple of podcasters that did a pretty good job analyzing this game. They did a phenomenal job when you look and you say a lot of what they did, a lot of what Ohio State was able to do was cause turnovers in the special teams. True. However, don't get too excited. This would have only made it still would have only made it a 2-score game. You would have won by 9 points. But let's look here, and you look at the 5 sacks that the Ohio State Buckeyes were able to get and how it totally froze Rourke. Look at his numbers. 8 for 18, 68 yards. Now, Tashawn Lawton had 79 yards on the ground and 2 touchdowns. Justice Ellison, 17 for 62. And I want you guys to think about something else when we start talking about this team. Talking about how efficient they were, because the Ohio State Buckeyes kicked the football after they received an opening kickoff, and they drove 11 plays, 70 yards down the field. And Ohio State went and they had a turnover on downs. But this is what I saw. And to me, this is what killed the Indiana Hoosiers. Was they got a lot of pressure on the second drive. And they couldn't answer. I'll tell you, this is where I said Ryan Day saved his job. Now, I know a lot of people are saying he lost his job in the Michigan game. But when he saw Rourke carve him up, you don't see Ohio State blitz. Ohio State can get pressure with 4. When they saw opening drive, they couldn't get pressure on Rourke with 4. They started sending multiple guys. I felt bad for Rourke. Every time he ran, it seemed like he dropped back, he was getting hit. Or he was having to move, run. He couldn't get his feet set. Which is why this matchup they've got against Notre Dame is going to be so tough to handle for them. Because Al Golden's defense is a blitz crazy defense. The only way Indiana's going to be able to stop that with what they're doing, they're going to have to run either a lot of rub routes or they're going to have to run a lot of fade patterns like USC did. You got a lot of people that are saying Notre Dame is suspect against the pass. If you can throw back shoulder fades, yeah. But if your back shoulder fade game ain't good, Rourke's accuracy is pretty good, but Indiana does not have what you would consider an elite blow-by guy. They don't have one of those. They don't have an elite blow-by guy. But I know what a lot of people are going to say. Okay, you're saying you're going to give everybody a path to the national championship. So how do they beat Notre Dame? Okay, Now, the two matchups that they cannot change is going to be Georgia and Notre Dame. Now, Indiana's special teams has not shown me anything special. So, and Notre Dame is really good in special teams. So, if they can play a clean game. Now, the one weakness that Notre Dame has is going to be their kicking game. If you can get away with getting Notre Dame to sustain drives and miss field goals, and you get the ball back and take advantage. The one thing you got to be with Notre Dame on your running game is patient. When Indiana was up against Ohio State, as I said, they had two runners that were over 60 yards. Now, granted, they had 32 carries on 141 yards. That's not too bad. That's right at 4 yards a carry. The way I see this is Rourke is going to have to throw this thing on first down against the Irish. And the way you win this game, and see, what I did not like was, and I looked at Ohio State had 9 carries for 68 yards and a touchdown, even though Travion Henderson did have a breakaway that Ryan Day horribly managed. You take the knee and get out of there. So, probably saved his butt getting that extra touchdown, as horrible as it may seem. But I think ultimately if the Indiana Hoosiers stick with the run against the Irish and don't get overzealous with the pass, and Rourke did not make any bad decisions with the football. However, he did lose a fumble. And this is something that Notre Dame does well when they get to the quarterback. They get to the quarterback better than the Ohio State Buckeyes do. And see, that's not a good thing you want to have to deal with. They come with a lot of pressure. They come with way more pressure than Ohio State. Ohio State likes to send 4 guys and stand back in either man coverage or a lot of zone. All right, now that we know about some of the players, let me introduce you guys to their running backs, whom are Justice Ellison and Tyshawn Lawton. Ellison's over 800 on the year. Lawton's over 630 yards. Both over 10 scores on the year. And the relevant stat here is they average right at 4.8 yards. Lawton has 4.8 and Ellison has over 5.5 a carry. And surprisingly, this Indiana team reminds me a lot of Tennessee. They like to run some up-tempo. Not nearly as much up-tempo as Tennessee does, but they've got some really fundamentally good wide receivers in Omar Cooper, Elijah Surratt, and Miles Price. And see, these guys are not what you call burners. They're physical receivers. Outside of Keyshawn Williams and Miles Price are the small guys on this bunch. Like I said, they don't have a bunch of huge guys. You know, there's Elijah Surratt, who's 6'2", 209. Then you've got Omar Cooper, who's 6 foot 201. These guys are not burners by any stretch of the imagination. They're not super physical specimens either. But when you start looking at this football team in its totality, they get the job done. And I remember it said best by one of the podcasters when he said something to the effect of, they don't woo you. They just go out and they stay ahead of the sticks. And it happened to be with a good balanced offense. Many people look at this team and they say, Curtis Rourke. He's right at 3,000 yards, which is not a bad number, but it's not it's kind of an exaggerated number when you look at it. But then you look at what this Indiana defense brings to the party. Mikael Kamara. This guy's 6'1", 265, and has 10 sacks on the year. This is the guy that's undersized, but the matter of what he can do, the 10 sacks don't fool you. If the 10 sacks don't fool you, this guy could wreck your game plan. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be somebody that's going to be a world breaker, but hey, he could get after it. Then, of course, you got a bunch of other guys there with less than 5. James Carpenter's got 4. And then when you look in the secondary, you got Amari Farrell, the 6'2", 200-pound defensive back, sophomore out of Lake City, Florida. That long body. That long body is a huge asset when you're talking about playing outside. When you play outside and you got 4 interceptions, the reality of it is that length. That is what you want to see. And then you got a guy that has a nose for the ball. He's got 4 interceptions. But the question that everybody has about Indiana is, can they bring it to a big game? That has continued to be the question going on into the college football playoff. Now that we've met the Indiana Hoosiers and who they are and what they are. Oh, and by the way, they have one of the largest point differentials in college football history. Now, a lot of people are going to say it's because of the quality of the competition. Look, they still got to do it. But let us, shall we, go through the road followed by Indiana to see how they can win. What's the perfect, follow and see the perfect path for the Indiana Hoosiers to win their first national championship. Let's look at the Notre Dame Fighting Irish game in South Bend. Obviously, the Irish have a wonderful football team. They're really strong in all facets of the game. Some have even said this is the perfectly well-rounded football team next to the Oregon Ducks. You really can't look at this team and find a weakness. The only weakness you could say is on the edge, maybe. Initially, it was the defensive front because they had so many guys that were undersized. Now, if Indiana is going to win this game, what they have to be able to do is they're going to have to be patient. They're going to have to peck away at that Notre Dame defense and pick runs. Now, much like Ohio State, Notre Dame there's yards on the ground to be had. Where the difficulty gets into play is if you're Indiana and you get really impatient and you want to start taking shots at this secondary when they see it coming. My idea with Indiana is take your shots when you can. Now, I'm not talking about deep shots. That's what everybody thinks when they think shots. With Indiana, taking shots is taking the automatic or the easy play. The Indiana Hoosiers want to stay ahead of the sticks. That's what their goal is, and they use their passing game to do that. However, as I said, they've got 2 good running backs. And Notre Dame has 2 elite running backs. The main thing Indiana wants to be able to do is stop Notre Dame's run and attack. They're a 3-headed monster. Keep them in 3rd and longs, much like you did with the first couple of drives with Ohio State. Keep them in 3rd and longs. Then you can consistently start to peck away at that Notre Dame defense and start taking a couple of shots here and there in the middle of that defense. If Rourke can stay away from Xavier Watts and make sure that the pass rush from Al Golden doesn't get home, and when they have 3rd down plays, they can get a couple of big slants in the middle of that defense, they can upset Notre Dame. Now, ultimately, what's going to happen is they're going to have to get some fortune. Notre Dame is very good on special teams. The biggest thing when you're punting the football is don't mess up the snaps. Make sure you get the football off by any means necessary. They're really good at a pass rush. One of the top teams in blocking kicks. Don't get caught up in that. Marcus Freeman and his special teams coordinator are going to come after you. They watched the Ohio State game. They're not going to be fooled. They're going to find every little inch that they can take from you. So, in this scenario, Indiana is able to run the football, stop Riley Leonard and company onto the victory. They move on and go to the All-State Sugar Bowl where the University of Georgia and the Dogs are waiting. Now, a lot of people are going to say that Georgia's still the same team with Stockton under center. I beg to differ. Look, Texas had no film, which me personally, I would have changed as soon as he came out on the field, I'm looking for run. This kid's going to have to stop me. This kid's going to have to show me. Ultimately, he ended up throwing an interception, which was kind of like, where'd that come from? But I guess, I don't even want to think what was going on. But ultimately, Georgia went back to what they knew. I guess there's somebody gave them the idea to watch the show. Ultimately, Indiana's going to have the same strategy against Georgia that they had against Notre Dame. The only difference is Georgia's running game doesn't scare you nearly as much as Notre Dame's does, because you're not worried about the running ability of the quarterback hurting you. Now, Stockton can get out on the perimeter if he has to, but where he's at his best is throwing the ball down the field. This is where Indiana is going to have to stand up and get some pressure on this kid. Make him think more than he normally would have to. Indiana's not a huge blitzing team. They're going to have to be a huge blitzing team here. And they're going to have to be in a situation where they're covering those receivers. Now, I'm not saying they got to blitz everybody. They're going to have to bring an extra guy. Not play man, but they're going to have to play zone and bring an extra guy. Make this defense work. Make them think. Make this defense be cerebral. On the other hand, when Georgia has the football, they cannot let this team run the football. They're going to have to sell out on the run. When they see the run, they're going to have to sell out. I honestly think that in order for Indiana to win this game, Rourke's going to have to make some plays in this one. Now, this is not a situation with Notre Dame where you peck away, because Georgia's secondary is not that great. There are yards to be had in the middle of this defense. Rourke is a statue when it comes to sitting in the pocket. I think ultimately, Indiana figures out that Rourke's going to have to be on the move, because that's where Georgia's biggest weakness is. Use a lot of misdirection in their running game to get that extra step they need to get Georgia off balance. They're able to pull out this win, slow down Stockton and Etienne, and they're able to move on. Now, in the perfect scenario, the team that Indiana would likely want to meet up with, believe it or not, you guys are not going to like what I'm about to say, it's going to be Boise State. Now, the Boise State matchup presents a unique chance, a unique opportunity, but it's much like the Ohio State matchup. You know who you got, and that's Ashton Jeanty. Indiana was not bad against the run, but they weren't great either. So ultimately what you want to be able to do is you can stack the box, because Boise's quarterback is not that good. And if you can put 6 to 7 guys in the box and not worry about their quarterback throwing the football, then that's a major plus. And this is why I ultimately think this is a better matchup for them. And it has nothing to do with Ashton Jeanty. Jeanty could have 115 yards and they'd still lose this game, because Rourke could come out here and he could throw against this Boise defense. Boise's defense is pretty good, but they don't have the pass rush to get to Rourke. And Rourke, with time, is just as deadly as one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the country. You don't have to believe me. The proof is in the pudding. When he gets time, he'll shred you. That's why, watch the Ohio State game. Why do you think Ryan Day decided, I'm bringing the house? Remember, I watched the games. Right, Brad? So ultimately, I think they end up slowing down Jeanty, not containing. I think they end up slowing him down enough, and this turns into a track meet that Boise State definitely does not want. And ultimately, they're able to move on to the national championship, being that the perfect scenario for the Indiana Hoosiers would be Ohio State. You heard me? Because if you look at the matchups with the other teams, and I know a lot of you was going to say, even I thought Arizona State, but Arizona State's running game is so much better than Ohio State's. Did you guys watch that Iowa State game? You don't want no part of that. Not that two-headed monster, you don't. At least with Ohio State, when you look here, I take away everything that happened in that game. Ohio State had to blitz in this game. What's going to happen in this one in the rematch? Same thing's going to happen. The only difference is this time O'Rourke's going to be ready for it. They're going to have some plays designed for pass rush. And the other thing is they're not going to give up on the run. They're going to be ready for it. They're going to run the football. They're not going to be so heavy on 3rd and long just to throw the football. They're going to run it, because there was yards to be had. I see Indiana taking this game by throwing on first down, running on second and third down, and basically saying, hey, we're not going to get in a situation where we're going to get put down by special teams. Because this game will be in a dome. This game will be in the dome. And ultimately, what will probably happen in this game after it's over and said, Ryan Day will be dismissed because everybody in the land just knew Ohio State was going to blow out Indiana like they did less than a month ago. And as I said, Indiana, run the football, take care of the football, and pick up the blitz. Now, as you've seen, this is the path that the Indiana Hoosiers want or need to have in order to win the national championship. But that's going to do it for Mr. CeeLo's perfect path for Indiana winning the national championship. Comment down below. Let me know if that I missed something. Do you think there's another team that's an easier matchup? And please tell me why, so we can have a conversation about it, you guys. Brad, let me know. Did I pick the right teams, or did you think there was another choice? Make sure when you subscribe to the show, you put your name down there. Also, make sure that you hit the bell notification so that when I post another show that you guys will have access to it. Also, go to our Facebook page at Gridiron Gab Triple Option. Find out what other polls we got out there and find out what other items we got out there and other goodies we got out there for you. I will be putting up a merchandise store here in a couple of months, you guys, over the off season, so you can check out the merch that Mr. CeeLo is going to be either producing or having access to. Also, go to Mr. CeeLo on Instagram so you can catch up with all the shenanigans that Mr. CeeLo, will be involved in. But until the next time, stay warm on this same Gab channel, same Gab platform.